Well, first of all, welcome to everyone. And for those of you who are taking time out serving your communities in yet another record weather event, whether you're here live or whether you're watching this a little bit later, thank you for joining with us today. We do have a packed agenda. But before I get started with the agenda, I do want to remind everyone we do have the 5 disaster relief attendants for alternate student instruction, which is also very similar to our NTI days. We did send out an email on Tuesday, April 1st that provides the procedures for these days. So again, just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. I think everyone is, but again, I just want to give you that reminder. But again, thank you so much. And most importantly, just want to take this opportunity to say we here at KD hope that you're safe, your family's safe, and in your communities. And thank you for what you're doing to help out. As I posted earlier this week or this weekend, that so many times our schools open up and are safe havens for our communities in times like this. And thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being there. Just thank you so much for what you do to help our communities survive and thrive in times like this so much. We could go over to the next slide, please. We do have a packed agenda today. I won't go through the entire agenda, but I will start off by at the end, as a matter of fact, in the question and answers, I will take some time to talk a little bit about the 2 areas that a lot of people have questions about. We've been sending information on this as it relates to the Title VI recertification, if you will, certification document from OCR. I'll talk a little bit about that. I did send an email about that yesterday, but also too, I'll talk a little bit about the ESSER liquidation rescission, the extension rescission, and where we are with that. We do have a meeting later on with some districts that are directly impacted as it relates to construction and maybe buses. But we do have invitations. And again, if you've received an invitation directly, because you're directly impacted, but we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But we did make some changes in our agenda, of course, with the latest weather event. We did have the Kentucky Emergency Management to reach out to us. So I would like to start off by introducing Director Eric Gibson with Kentucky Emergency Management. He has some important information to get out to our districts at this time. So at this time, Dr. Gibson, if you would, please.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Commissioner, and I appreciate you just allowing us a few minutes of your all's agenda. I know it was already packed, and at this time, we were just kind of wanting to jump on, make sure we first begin by saying thank you. I visited a Red Cross shelter yesterday here in Franklin County, one of the schools that opened their doors and had welcomed the Red Cross to come in and set up sheltering for our survivors. And that thing looked just very impressive. A lot of beds, very well organized, very well ran, and there were people from the school system helping run that facility. And it just speaks to exactly what you said. Always a part of the community, always finding a way to be a resource to the community and being there to serve the people in that community. So that's firsthand knowledge, but very much I'd like to say thank you for the work that you all support us in our operations in doing. And for that, I just want to make sure that we talk about the damages and how we can help support you all as well. Many times in these disasters, we know the schools are impacted, and we see that over and over again, that there are damages to the schools. And we always want to make sure that we find a way to communicate to you all how you can turn, or what is eligible to turn in, and what we could possibly receive FEMA reimbursement for. And we want to talk through those things and make sure that the most current update, version 5 of the manual, just was released in January. And there's always updates to that thing that come out, and it makes certain things eligible that may not have been in the past. But there's things that we as a team here at KYEM talk about that we believe are eligible expenses that are often not always realized, and they don't get reported. So if we can help close some of those information gaps and get the proper reporting in, we believe we can be helpful in helping the school districts recover, cost of damages and repairs. And with that being said, I have my assistant director, Miss Roby, and she deals with those things every day, and she's very knowledgeable about the recovery process and what all FEMA will allow and the things that we can help you all with. And I'd like to introduce Miss Roby. She's going to provide you all just a line by line scenario of things that can be claimed that maybe hadn't been thought of, and then maybe the process to get that done. And then we'll step aside and let you all get on with your regular meeting. But I know many of the schools are hurting. You all been, had flooding and had inundation. You've also, had other damages to the property that we want to make sure that we're talking about. We had a lot of wind in the beginning of this event. So there's tree damage, there's, damage to the property, and then also the flooding on the backside. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Roby just to give a quick brief on damages and what we can do to help you all, and then we'll move on. Thank you very much, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I start on the FEMA side of the equation, there is a new SAFE fund that was put in place during this last session. It was House Bill 544. Schools are eligible to apply for SAFE funds if, in fact, they were impacted and they have needs. So I would encourage you, if you are interested in applying for SAFE funds, that you reach out to the Division of District Support Funding and Reporting Branch, and they can assist you with the process that you will need to follow to request funds. Now let's talk about FEMA. So often schools are impacted, and so often we are told we don't need FEMA, we have insurance. Well, there are lots of things that your insurance won't cover that FEMA will. The greatest example I can think of would be football fields and baseball fields, your facilities perhaps that are surrounded with a chain link fence or dugouts, those sorts of things. Always, I encourage you, when you have damages, please reach out to the county emergency management office in your county and report whatever damages you have. Even if you do not intend to request FEMA funding, it's imperative that the county understand what kind of damages were sustained. Every county has to meet a certain level of damages cost-wise to be able to request FEMA assistance. So your expenses will help your county become eligible, and that means that the county road department and other government resources will be able to apply for FEMA funding. Now, the types of things that perhaps you might want to look at FEMA to underwrite for you: debris. So often, if you've had a flood or you've had a bad wind event, you're going to have lots of debris on your property. There's FEMA funding to remove debris. You also have to look at things like, did your access roads become damaged? Did you lose drainage facilities on your property? I would say that perhaps your culverts would not be covered under your standard insurance policies. That is something that would be eligible for FEMA funding. The other thing is your buildings and equipment. FEMA will help with the cost of that. If you lose buses, if you have damages to your buildings, those are things that FEMA can help with. Even though we see districts with lots of insurance, we also see districts that are underinsured. So I encourage you, please report all of your damages to your county emergency management office. I would also say to you that many of you have been involved in the last disaster declaration, and now you've been slammed again by this one. It's very important that you separate the two events. Do not commingle damages or expenses. I encourage you for this event, since it is so new, please photograph your damages. Please keep track of the expenses that you're incurring. If you have any need for answers to questions, things I didn't cover, let me give you an email address. You can email us at any time. If necessary, we can send subject matter experts to your district and help you wade through the FEMA maze. It's tough. I'm not going to say it's not. But if you need help, please email pa.help@ky-em.org. Again, that's pa.help@ky-em.org. I told, yes.
Well, as I said, she's a wealth of knowledge, and I'm actually blessed to have her around here. She knows more about FEMA than FEMA knows about FEMA, I think. I told the administrator of FEMA the power of the pen is mighty, and she's that. So she writes all of our declarations and appeals, and is to be commended for the work that she does. But if anyone has any questions, I know there's a question and answer at the end, but I don't think we're going to stay on for the whole event. We have another meeting that kind of bumps up against it. But we'd be glad to, if anybody has anything, they can put it in the chat, or you always can reach out to us. I'm very easy to get here at KYEM. My email address is eric.gibson@ky.gov. It's eric.gibson@ky.gov, and we'll do our very best to answer any of your questions and make sure that we do our best to take care of your all's districts and any of the department's issues.
Director Gibson, if I may, if you have any information you'd like for us to send out to all districts, we'll be happy to do that. If there's anything through email or anything else, if you'll send that to Jennifer Ginn here, we'll make sure that districts get that information. Just let us know.
Okay, we could probably put together just a little one pager that might be helpful in the links that we talked about. And then, like I said, that way there's contact information that's good, and the updated guidance. Like I said, I think there's dollars left on the table, and we want to make sure if there's anything there that helps them recover. I know the dollars are valuable, and they go to everyone as needed to get those education goals accomplished. So,
well, if you could do that, we'd greatly appreciate it. And we'll get that information out to all of our districts.
Okay. Yes, sir. And anytime you need us, we'd be glad to join.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
I think that, if we have any other questions that come up throughout, we'll get back to Director Gibson. If you have any questions that you want to put in the chat, or, we can, of course, you have his email, you can contact him directly. But again, if there's anything that we can do, by all means, contact either Matt Ross or Jennifer Ginn here at the department. We will wait for that information from Director Gibson to send that out to districts and hopefully get a one-pager with some information for you as we move forward. With that being said, again, anything that you want to put into the question and answers section here, we can do that. But I think next we have our Director of Communications, Jennifer Ginn. We'll be going over some KDE updates.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. We just had one competitive grant to let you know about. We also did this one at the last Superintendent Webcast, so just as a reminder, FY25 KYILN travel grant applications are due on April 24th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Award amount up to $3,000. No matching funds requirement. The Kentucky Innovative Learning Network Travel Grant is intended to support travel to model schools and/or exemplary conferences that promote and concern learner-centered and innovative practices at their programmatic core. So if you have if you need any more information about that, you can always find it as usual on our KDE Competitive Grants webpage or by emailing Jennifer Bryant. And up next is about preschool continuous assessment update. Andrea Bartholomew, do we have you with? Are you with us, Andrea?
Yes, Jennifer, I'm here. All right, so I'm Andrea Bartholomew. I am the School Readiness Branch Manager in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, and I'm bringing you a quick update today on a preschool continuous assessment. Next slide, please. The Department of Education is required to submit outcome data for preschool students with disabilities to the Office of Special Education Programs per federal regulation. State regulation also requires that each school district completes developmentally appropriate assessments on each preschool child every year. Next slide, please. Previously, we had used an outside vendor for this federally required data collection, and then we took information from 5 approved continuous assessments to have that data for our reporting. But as we have transitioned out of that vendor to Infinite Campus, we are hoping to ensure high quality data and to ease burden on districts. We decided to use the preschool child outcome summary, which is something that is used in most states and territories for preschool child outcome reports to OSEP. And it helps us to have that in Infinite Campus because we can control that data more specifically. Next slide, please. So based on that change, we are no longer tied to those 5 continuous assessments in programs. So beginning to 25-26 school year, Kentucky districts with state-funded preschool students will no longer be required to use one of those 5 approved assessments. Districts will be able to choose their own assessment that might be more cost-effective for the district, or that might be more suited to the needs of the communities and the families with the program serves. You will be required to give us the name of the assessment that you are using in the grant management application and planning program, GMAP, also on the COS form in Infinite Campus. Districts are really encouraged to reach out to their regional training center, the RTCs, for more support if they need help choosing a new assessment. Preschool coordinators and directors of special education have been informed of this change already. So many districts are already searching out new information for that continuous assessment. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions for me. Next slide. I think I'm done. Yep. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Andrea. Up next, we have Deputy Commissioner Thomas Tucker and Michelle Searcy. Are you with us?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Thank you very much. Yeah, I want to take a little time with Dr. Searcy to update our superintendents and other folks on this presentation here to inform you on the new advanced placement testing. As many of you know, we will be moving to a digital format. And I'm going to ask Dr. Searcy, who heads our program coordinator for comprehensive school counseling here in the Office of Teaching and Learning, to give us a couple updates. And then I'll probably jump in with maybe 1 or 2 resources that our superintendents, students, staff, and other people who are in charge of AP testing can think about as we get closer to our testing date. Dr. Searcy.
Thank you, Dr. Tucker. And just to echo what Dr. Fletcher started us off with, I want to thank you all for being here. We know this is a really difficult time for all of our school districts across the Commonwealth. We've been hit by many natural disasters, and we know that it is hard to pull away from the immediate needs of your school families and your school community to be here. So thank you. If you can go to the next slide. Right, we have some pretty big updates with our AP program testing for this year. Starting this May, we will be shifting to a digital platform for testing for 28 of our AP exams. College Board has already sent this information out to all of your AP coordinators, but this is going to be such a big change. We want to make sure that all of our superintendents are aware as well. Students will be taking those digital exams using Blue Book. This is the same platform that they use for ACT suite of assessments. So for many of our students, this will not be new. AP coordinators and the proctors will be administering all of our digital exams through that digital Blue Book. For math, science, and economics, it's going to be a hybrid version of testing. So there will be portions of the test that they will take digitally, and then there will also be portions that they have to take for notations and graphing that will be in free response exam booklets. If you can go to the next slide. What we're asking all of our superintendents to do is to please encourage your AP coordinators to join our webcast that we're going to be doing tomorrow in collaboration with College Board. That's going to give a high-level overview of what the exams will look like and how they can access it. Important for our superintendents, especially for our larger districts, is superintendents can sign to have access for someone at the district level to ensure that all of the schools are set up appropriately and they are ready for the exams. I will put that link in the chat box. So if that's something that our superintendents would like someone at central office to be able to see and monitor to make sure that their schools are up to date and ready for the exams, you can certainly do that too. Also, we have our digital AP exam homepage that you will have access to so that you can make sure that everything is up to speed. You can watch recorded webinars and resources that they've already sent out to all of your AP coordinators, so they should have that and ready to go. And also you can reach out to Mark Yoho, who is our state coordinator from College Board, to answer any questions. Dr. Tucker?
Yes, Dr. Searcy, as you know, tomorrow we're going to mention a little bit more about some resources. The Kentucky Department of Education does not endorse any publisher, but go back to my days as a superintendent. You may be at your place of worship, at the grocery store, and parents may come to you or students and ask, well, what study materials do you have for this new digital online format? And again, we don't endorse Barron's, but Barron's has has a free online simulation class that will be going from April 12th through the 27th. It's a free class that will give students a chance to practice under real exam-like conditions in a digital format. As Dr. Searcy mentioned, we'll be going to a digital format. So these students can access Barron's online class and have this real life digital format right in front of them. That's April 12th through the 27th. And we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Tucker.
Thank you.
Up next is Tina Brokley. I hope I am pronouncing your last name right and not making a fool of myself in public. Talking about non-course code work-based learning deadline reminder.
Thank you very much, Jen. It's Brogle, but you were really close. If you just go to the next slide, I'm here representing OCTE today just to remind everybody of the deadline for the non-course code work-based learning and the accountability model. And this slide is really just to provide you with some helpful links. The first link is the application to the non-course code work-based learning KBE approval process. So any student you have that you'd like to have recommended for this process, we do want to remind you that those applications are due on May 1st for this year, for this school year. Submissions have to be sent through the SharePoint, which you'll find on the bottom of the application. That's the second bullet point that you're looking at there. And then the very last bullet point is just showing the state accountability links and a really helpful FAQ sheet for the co-ops and internships for state accountability if you're unaware of that. Or if you have any questions, as always, you can contact me here at OCTE or any of my colleagues, and we'll be happy to give you any information you need. So really, this is just a reminder slide for that May 1st deadline. We didn't, a lot of things going on right now, so we just wanted to make sure the deadline didn't sneak up on anyone. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tina. Up next, we have Dr. Brian Perry. Are you with us, Brian?
I am. Thank you. Next slide, please. So we have, at the end of the session, we always put out legislative guidance on all of the bills that are set to become law or have already become law. So that guidance will come out in early May. You can see the link there. All of our guidance gets posted to this one particular website. Offices do often post it on other KDE websites, but if you ever are not sure where to look, this link should have all of our guidance posted in one spot. I would also ask that as you all are reviewing the various legislation that passed, please reach out and let us know if you have specific questions on bills. That will help us as we put together the guidance. It'll also help us know if we need to put out an FAQ on any particular bill. So just you can send those to me or to any other staff member, and that'd be very helpful. So every year, shortly after the session ends, the Attorney General puts out an opinion that sets the official date for bills that were enacted to go into effect that don't have an emergency clause or other effective date within the bill. This year, that is Friday, June 27th. So we should have our guidance out early next month, so you should have quite a bit of time to prepare for all the new legislation that is going into effect. Next slide, please. So this was a pretty busy short session. We saw a lot of bills get filed, especially for a 30-day session. They really, kind of creeped as the years have gone by. These short sessions were originally intended to be cleanup sessions, but they've really morphed into just a full session minus the budget. So with that said, we tagged about 200 bills right out of the gate. So a lot of education bills again this year. So we'll go through some of these. I'm not going to go through all of them. I have linked all the bills here that I think districts should take a look at and make sure that you are aware of what's coming and different things that have happened over the last few months. So with that said, Senate Bill 19 here, among the along with the moments of silence and reflection, it picked up moral instruction bill along the way. So we saw again this year a lot of bills get amended through the process and rolled into each other. So please pay attention when you're reviewing these bills. A lot of them, the titles are just part of the bill now. So in this one, does allow for 1 hour of moral instruction per week. I know some districts were already doing this, but just wanted to put that on the radar. Moving down, Senate Bill 207 was probably one of the bigger bills that got passed in terms of the impact that will be coming. So again, it picked up an amendment late. So along with the changes to the innovation tags, we also now will see some curriculum changes. So just very quickly, the first half of the bill, the original bill, moves the innovation tag from the district level to the school level. So your district no longer has to apply the innovation tag to the entire district. You can apply it to individual schools within your district. And that will allow for various waiver processes through the board to allow that school to do some unique and innovative things. I'm not sure that it allows anything that's not currently allowable. It really just moves it down to the school level. So the big amendment that got added was one that the department was supportive of, and it relates to curriculum. So you may remember a report that came out last year that talked about the kind of misalignment between what was happening with the department and statutory language regarding the state textbook curriculum committee. That was a very old language. That commission hadn't been funded in about a decade. In the meantime, our Office of Teaching and Learning had really revamped how that process worked to more align with modern, high-quality instructional resources. And we're now seeing that sort of model get codified in language. So it will codify the State Quality Curriculum Task Force. That group will point districts to approved green-rated HQIRs. Those are at least 80% aligned with the Kentucky Academic Standards. Those will then get housed in a new online repository that will allow for external stakeholders like parents and community members to see what curricula the district has selected and to review those. And then it also allows for a better tying of district test scores to specific curriculums. So we'll have a lot better data as it relates to how certain curriculum are impacting test scores in a district. So there's no funding attached to this at the moment. However, the bill does include some language that allows for the commissioner to purchase curriculum on behalf of districts. So we are hopeful that we will see an appropriation next session for that. So it's a big change. It doesn't go into effect till 26. So by a little over a year. I think that we will see a lot more information coming from our Office of Teaching and Learning on this to help you all prepare. This is a big change, but one that I think we're excited about here at the department. Next slide. Oh, before I go on to the next slide, let me mention Senate Bill 181. This is another one that the department was involved with throughout the process. So we have a number of sort of misconduct bills. We've seen them the last few years try to essentially close some loopholes that allowed for a very small number of bad actors to move between districts and things like that. This one started out sort of as an anti-grooming idea, really sort of morphed into focusing on the telecommunications between adults and students within the school system. So this one will have the schools designate approved communication platforms that are reviewable and open, so everybody can see kind of what messages are being sent. So please make sure you're aware of that one. Again, I will also mention that as we talk about these misconduct bills, we are frequently reminding everyone that this is for a very small number of bad actors, and that the vast majority of our teachers in the Commonwealth are outstanding and are certainly not targeted by these bills. Next slide, please. So as always, We see a lot more House bills because we have a lot more House members. So House Bill 48 is a bit of an omnibus bill, so it has several different things, all sort of under the heading of a Red Tape Reduction Act. So it gets rid of a required report from the department. Hopefully that will, be a bit of a less burden on the districts and supplying that data to us. It does also make some changes to the waiver process. We're still working through these. So please make sure that when we do release our guidance, you look at the guidance as it relates to the waiver processes under House Bill 48. House Bill 190 is one that has been filed, I think, every year that I have been in Frankfort, and finally got across the finish line this year. It does make some, I think, good changes to the dual credit scholarships that are out there, and it hopefully will simplify by creating one unified high school dual credit scholarship, and then we'll have the Work Ready Kentucky scholarship for adults once they're out of high school. So hopefully this will just make it a little clearer for your students and families to understand what scholarships are available and how to best utilize them to reach their educational goals. House Bill 208 is the cell phone bill that we were expecting. So again, please make sure you're taking a look at that one and understanding kind of what's required in terms of a district policy. House Bill 240 was as a holdback bill. So this started out as a kindergarten holdback bill. It's now permissive at kindergarten to hold a student back if they are not on grade level at the end of kindergarten. It is mandatory to hold them back at first grade if they're not on the first grade level at the end of the school year. So really, again, some bills focusing on that early education, early childhood education. So not surprised to see these, but please make sure you're, again, reviewing that one and understanding what's in it. House Bill 241 was probably the biggest bill of the session in terms of impact to the department and to districts. So again, this saw another bill get rolled into it. Senate Bill 268 got folded in the process. So we now have sort of two bills in one. So House Bill 241 is what the commissioner mentioned at the beginning. Having those additional disaster relief days for districts also allows you all to amend your school calendars and to potentially waive days come June if you've not been able to meet the requirements. That's great. The other half that got rolled in relates to virtual programs and makes some really big changes that, again, here at the department, we're still sort of working through to understand how we're going to implement that half of this bill. So broadly, it will put a 1% cap on non-resident enrollment in full-time virtual programs. So the department is going to be required to kind of monitor that and make sure that we don't exceed that 1% total statewide. It also limits how many students you can get in your full-time virtual program from other districts. Among some other things, there are some various waivers that are available for students, so that don't count toward the cap. So students that are that have a sibling in the same full-time virtual program, that are military dependent children, or that have a waiver from a doctor saying that they need to be enrolled in a full-time virtual program. So again, this is one that I think we will definitely have some supplemental guidance on. So our main legislative guidance will have every bill listed in it. But then our various offices will also be putting out supplemental guidance as we go for bills like this that just have a lot in them and that need additional guidance kind of separate from the main guidance document. So please watch for that. It's a really big change. I don't know that we have a total idea on how we're going to implement this, but we have started to talk about it and plan out how we'll be implementing this one. And I see the commissioner coming on. I think he probably wants to have a few words on this one.
No, just as far as Brian, I think you did an excellent job. There are some parts of this that's going to be very difficult for us to monitor. They're again reiterating the 1% non-resident virtual students. There's a 1% cap for the entire state, and then I think as it gets to 0.085%, we have to tell everyone to freeze at that point. And then and also Dr. Perry also outlined the three exceptions, if you will, to that cap and to that freeze. So again, as we move forward, very thankful for the 241 for those 5 days. We were hoping that we wouldn't need the 5 NTI days, but we do have that in place, and so many districts are getting the use of that this week. Also, as a reminder, with 241, if you've gone over the 6 hours of instructional day, you made some changes into your instructional calendar, then that extra time can go through the 1,062 hours as opposed to the 172. So that allows us to get some information. Allows us to get a little bit earlier. If you're unable to get your full 1,062 hours in by June 4th, you can also apply for 5 other disaster days where I would actually waive days of instruction. So I know that we'd want to avoid that at all costs, but those are some of the options that you have with 241. But again, as they added on 268 to that, there are some issues there with the virtual programming that we're going to have to monitor, and we'll keep you up to speed if we get close to that 1%. I don't think we even have a way of determining how many. Well, we could go through IC, but anyway, we don't have the numbers yet on the number of virtual students in the state, but we'll have to put that together. So again, we'll monitor that. We'll keep you updated as we go.
Thanks, Commissioner. Moving down to House Bill 298, this is another one that the department was involved with and supportive of. So a few years ago, the General Assembly moved our identification for CSI status to every 3 years to align with the minimum federal requirements. In the interim, we kind of had some conversations about that, and there was interest in moving back to annual identification, primarily so that we can offer support to those schools sooner rather than later. So we will be moving back to annual identification for CSI. Next bill, please, or next slide, please. So 342 makes some changes to the required financial literacy course for graduation. So please make sure you're monitoring that. House Bill 422 doesn't really have a lot to do with the districts, but there were a number of bills related to the administrative reg process here at the department. Moving on down. 566 is one that I wanted to just flag because you may not catch it otherwise. Again, they included some language in here that relates to charitable gaming for school districts. So please make sure you take a look at that language and understand what changes are being made there. I know several of you all are interested in House Bill 622 because it includes some funding for SROs. So we'll be putting out, again, some more information on that as we move forward. And then House Joint Resolution 32 includes the gap funding for those districts that were included in that list. Next slide, please. So that's the very short version of what happened during the session, but I know it's a lot to go through all these bills all at once. Again, we should have guidance out, our initial guidance out early next month. That will probably be followed by a number of supplemental guidance documents and potentially some FAQs for various bills. Again, there's my email. Please let me know if you have specific questions on any bills so that we can start compiling those. With that, I will turn it back to Jen.
Well, before we get any more updates from the commissioner here, I'll take that over. But I do want to emphasize Senate Bill 207, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. With this repository, it does allow, first of all, we're looking at a repository of green rated resources, but now districts still have the opportunity, if they want to purchase resources off that list, they can do that. They can still go through the process. But keep in mind, this also allows us to have some fair pricing across the state, easier access for samples. And again, when one of the bills that was introduced really wanted one curriculum for the entire state. So we did work on that a little bit to get to this point. So again, we really like the repository idea that allows looking at even having people to be able to review materials a lot easier, the improved digital access to the materials, and also for not only for educators, but also for community stakeholders. So again, I do like where this bill landed, but keep in mind, if you want to purchase outside of that repository of green rated resources, you're still able to do so. So I wanted to emphasize that as we move on. Brian, anything to add to that?
No, that's a great point. The off-list notification does remain, because that new tie back to the test scores, it'll really help districts sort of pilot potentially new HQIRs as they come online. So we'll be able to see that impact in the district much more easily, I think, going forward. So that's an exciting change that's coming, I think.
Again, thank you, Dr. Perry, for that. We really appreciate it. And I think next slide, please. Let me see.
It's the updates from the commissioner.
Oh, thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It's not coming up on my screen here, but
I just
anyway,
stopped sharing so they could see you.
okay, thank you. I'm sure they appreciate that too. A couple of things I wanted to bring back to everyone's attention. I've been sending emails about this, and I want to first start off talking about the ARP ESSER liquidation extension. It was terminated. One of the big decisions that we got from the Department of Education early on in my tenure as commissioner, we did get an extension to spend ARP ESSER funds. And that was back in September. So we have in writing the ability to extend that. And as many of you know, as all of you should know, is on March 28th at 5:05 p.m., we were notified that that extension was now rescinded. Or reconsidered, if you will. So that at that point, I think we were somewhere around $52 million total that was not spent. There are particular districts that have everything from construction to maybe bus purchases and other things that's a part of that. And we do have a meeting with those districts after this at 4 p.m. But just in case you're wondering, it's Boone, Carter, Caverna, Christian, Clinton, Covington, Knox, Laurel, Letcher, Owsley, Perry, Pike, and Trigg are the districts that had the largest impact as it relates to the 34.2 million portion of this. So after we got that notice, we did do on April 1, we did send a request for reconsideration to the U.S. Department of Education and Secretary McMahon. We also sent that to U.S. senators, our U.S. representatives, the governor, our AG Coleman, and also to state leadership, state legislators and leadership too. And a part of that, we did have a call to action with our superintendents, asking for you to reach out to your legislators. Now, especially U.S. legislators, of those districts that were mentioned to me, it would make perfect sense for those of you to reach out to your legislators. And we'll talk more about that as we move forward. But there's also almost 18 million from a State Department standpoint that impacts everyone on the call. And I'll give you some information on that. For example, we were looking at another cohort of letters. Right now, that funding's on hold. There was funding for Governor School of the Arts and Governor School for Entrepreneurs to allow more students to attend these. So if that money is pulled, and again, we're at the point where the Governor School for the Arts and the Governor School for Entrepreneurs has to start notifying students about this summer. So there is those extra students, and we'll have to get that information out as quickly as we can anyway, would be impacted, or at least they will. There's also before and after in school programs, including summer programs, especially for CSI schools, that's impacted in with this. I think it's a little over $6 million. Something that impacts, I think, everyone on this call would be the IC registration. We were able to extend our paying, when I say our, funding through ARP ESSER to pay for the IC online registration that we started in COVID. So that would end pretty quickly if we're unable to pay for that. E-transcripts. We also have 5 districts that are part of a CTE outreach program. We have 15 districts that are looking at early learning buses. The identity management system, our Q system, our cybersecurity. We're in the middle of a cybersecurity updating our system. That's $1.4 to $1.6 million that we can't go back on. So we're either, if we don't get this funding, then we still have to move forward with this. Then also to our chronic absenteeism campaign. So the $34.2 million is directly to districts that we consider are the grant awardee, and then there would be the sub awardees, if you will. So they are impacted directly through either construction or possibly bus purchases and other items. The 18 million kind of impacts the state as a whole. So I wanted to make sure that people, we have asked for them to give us an answer by April 11th. So we are going to look at other options as we move forward. But again, we'll have a meeting with those 13 districts specifically a little bit later on next steps and get them more information. Other item too, that I sent a letter out, an email out yesterday, and it revolves around the Title VI certification letter. It's a detailed letter that we looked at in OLS here to get out to you. And then we were notified on Thursday, April 3rd, that we were, in their words, required to have a certification on not only Title VI, but also the results of the SFFA versus Harvard law case. I think it happened in June of 2023. And then they wanted us to resubmit or submit this certification within 10 days. We were notified, and again, this is all in the email that you should have received yesterday, I believe, at 11:13 a.m. That was when it was sent out. So with that, we were given an extension. When I say we, every state across the country, and to have that certification deadline moved to April 24th. We are carefully going through this. We have not decided how we're going to approach this, but I did send a copy of that certification letter to every district so that you can have your legal counsel to review that. Regardless of how we move forward, you may want to talk about next steps with your legal counsel. But what we're doing is we're reviewing that certification form, and we also there's a process through the Administrative Procedures Act where there should be a posting based on law, a 60 to 90 day input session, and then another posting of what a procedure would look like. That procedure was not followed. People would some people would argue that this was an interpretive action, so it would not have to go through that procedure. But again, it wasn't assigned an OMB number or anything of that nature. So right now, we're trying to decide if we're going to look at the legal authority of this and determine whether or not to sign this. Now, I will let you know what we do as a department and anything else that as far as what we would require from you, if possible. But again, please check that email. Please talk to your legal counsel about it. I think that there's some things there that you really need to be aware of. Again, it's a tough decision. It impacts millions upon millions of dollars. If the federal government withholds that, there's a process for that. We have to see what that looks like. But again, that certification letter is in your email. And again, this is evolving. I've talked to other state chiefs about how they're handling it. I've talked to, and it's a wide variety. You have some states that are entering into a lawsuit about this. It would appear anyway. You have other states that have signed the document from a state agency, sent it to the local agency for them to sign and return back. You have some, as a matter of fact, New York was one of the very first ones to reply, and they just said, we've already done all of our Title VI certification. We've done all of our certifications, and you will not be getting anything else from us as it moves forward. So again, it's a wide range if you look at through the news and any type of news articles of the response to this Title VI certification. Again, I do have some more meetings in the next few days as it relates to this. We will be getting out some information to you on how we're going to proceed, and then we'll go forward from there. But again, I want to make you aware that way you understand where we are and what we're going through as it relates to that. Now, that being said, I will close again with talking about our flooding and the issues we've had over the past week. There are so many districts that are impacted. So many of our students have lost their homes. It is such a blessing to see so many that are stepping up to help their neighbor, including our districts. So many of our districts schools are being used as a shelter, a safe haven, if you will, for a lot of our students. But again, there has been some loss of life throughout this, and we want to pray for each of those as we move forward. Again, I want to say thank you again for what you do, whether it be during the Eastern Kentucky floods, the Central Western Kentucky floods now, whether it be the snow and ice storms, tornadoes. There's just so many things that our districts do to step up and to help our students and just as importantly, our communities. And I want to say thank you for that. We sincerely appreciate it. That being said, were there any questions that came up within our document. Any questions, Jen, that we saw? Who's
Doesn't
running
look
that question?
Doesn't look like any questions right now, Commissioner.
All right, I do have a few texts. I'll try to answer those after I get off here and talk to some people as we go through. Again, thank you so much for what you do, and appreciate your being all in. The important dates that you see is the final slide there. We do have the EPSB Standards Board will be meeting on April 22nd. Our STLP State Championships, April 23rd. Our next Superintendent's Webcast is May 13th. The Kentucky Board of Education meeting is June 4th and 5th. The last thing I'll say is, as in closing, that I meant to update everyone on, we will have another model framework with just some minor tweaks that was recommended by our board. I don't know if we want to call it 4.0 or 3.1, but as it relates to social studies and writing and how that's handled, and also just maybe some cleanup on the graphic itself. Instead of calling it federal accountability, maybe state accountability with federal requirements. So we do have a little bit of a couple of tweaks, if you will, that will get out hopefully either early next week or by the end of the week. And that was based on recommendations from the Kentucky Board of Education and what we saw moving forward. So again, go back. Thank you so much. We appreciate all you do. Thank you for being all in.